It wasn't something I could necessarily think my way through. And the best way that I can kind of describe it is how you see animals on National Geographic. If you see an animal that's in the wild and it picks up on the fact that there's a predator nearby, and the look on the face and the stillness of the body and the panic that that animal starts to go into is so reflective of what it would be like for me to go to sleep every single night.
What do you think life would be like if there was a ghost, a spirit, an entity that decides to attach to you? But what if that entity goes one step farther and decides to claim you? So this is no longer a spirit that comes and goes, only shows up when you're sad or whatever. It's not grandma and grandpa. It's not deceased loved ones. This is a soul with a purpose and agenda. Now, I remove entity attachments for a living. I've never come across anything like it in my work, either before or after. A very unique case. And this story starts out right away on what it's like for a little girl for the first 25 years of her life being haunted and claimed by an evil female spirit consciousness. I have here Lisa, and here with her story about something that happened before and then after a soul realignment that she had with her daughter. Her daughter is on the phone with me, and let me see, I got my phone here and I'm pointing it at my speaker or my and I did this with Raymond Moody interview, so it worked well. So I'm going to be asking what life was like before a soul awareness and realignment session and then after. So Lisa, start from the beginning, leave nothing out.
Okay. So this happened when my daughter was approximately 4 years old, and she would start telling us that she was afraid to be in a room by herself. She was afraid to go to the bathroom by herself. She was afraid to take a bath by herself. She couldn't have the lights on in her room. And at that time, when Kaylee was 4, we had a baby when she was 4, and there was a lot of stuff going on, and all of a sudden she is just very frightful of night and being alone. And we really didn't know what was going on. We thought maybe it was just the new baby in the house. But we'd go into her room at night, and she would be just so afraid and so fearful. And she also remembers like sleeping under the bed and always saying that somebody was coming to get her. When we did have the baby, I remember taking him into one of his appointments, like a wellness check, and the doctor looked at me and he's like, he's got scabs on the back of his head. What's going on? And I started cracking up. I'm like, oh, that's his big sister dragging him around from room to room because she doesn't want to be alone. So she take him by his little pajama bottoms and drag him around with her.
God bless her.
But she was just so fearful, and night terrors, and it just did not go away up until she went to college and came home from college. She still had this, and she would talk to me about this entity that was so terrifying and frightening. And I do psychic work, so I was reaching and trying to feel what it could possibly be, maybe another soul that didn't come to fruition in our family, and she's trying to cling to her to experience life. I really did, because I think at one point I had lost a baby. So I really
Mhm.
didn't know if this was something friendly to me. I wasn't feeling what she was feeling, until one day we talk frequently in video, talk frequently. She called me from work on her way home from work, and she was in the car and telling me about her day. And I interrupted her and I said, Kaylee, I know that you have this fear of something being around you at all times that scares you. I'm seeing something right now in the camera. And she's like, oh God. And I said, Kaylee, the person I'm seeing, it looks like the Rain from the Scary Movie, with the long tendrils of hair and the gray face, and you can't really make out the face, and the hair just floating around. And this entity was right above her head and menacing. When I told her what I saw and described, she just got chills. She said, oh my God, Mom, stop talking. You're frightening me. You're frightening me.
Mhm.
So through different psychic groups, I met Deborah, and
Mhm.
we were taking a class together. And Deborah told me about soul retrieval. And I was so interested. And I thought, gosh, maybe there's something to this. And maybe she can help Kaylee, because I can't figure it out. I can't get in there. I was like blocked. I could see this entity, I could see it's menacing, but I didn't really know how it was affecting her. And so we called Deborah, and
Yes.
Deborah did her magic and did the soul retrieval. And it was like night and day. It was like night and day. As an adult, Kaylee was finally able to um, be alone by herself in a dark room, take a bath by herself with maybe just a candle lit, be in a dark room, sleep in a dark room. But it was just like night and day. And
Yeah, so
Interesting.
it's so interesting because, when I think about this experience as an adult, there's so many possibilities, right? You can think, gosh, well, was I 4 and did I see something maybe scary on the TV at one point? And was this something that for me, imagination? I mean, I was a kid, and I feel so certain in my body that my experience was not a cerebral experience. It wasn't something that I thought was happening. It was on such a cellular level,
Mm.
a feeling, a felt experience. It wasn't something I could necessarily think my way through. And the best way that I can kind of describe it is how you see animals on National Geographic. If you see an animal that's in the wild,
Mhm.
and it picks up on the fact that there's a predator nearby, and the look on the face and the stillness of the body and the panic that that animal starts to go
Oh my
into
God.
is so reflective of what it would be like for me to go to sleep every single night,
Oh my God.
every single night. And to try to make sense of that and to explain that in a way that, you know, societally speaking, there isn't a whole lot of words for.
Mhm.
Um, and to try to employ different techniques at 4 years old to try to create safety
Right.
and to try to calm myself down, whether it's trying to explain to my parents, this is what my experience is. And I can't necessarily see this person, but I feel them so strongly that I can see them in like my mind's eye. I see it's for sure a woman. She's in the corner of my room, and she's just staring in this really aggressive, menacing way. And I remember, my parents doing really, what could be expected of them, what they could do to try to kind of walk me through this, whether it's she's having nightmares or whatnot. And the question being, well, if she's just looking at you, like, is that okay? It's uncomfortable, but is that okay? And I knew for certain, no, she's going to do something awful to me.
Mm-hmm.
Something awful's going to happen. And so I remember being really young and constantly needing to have a nightlight in my room for whatever reason. The presence of light would like detract this entity from coming. But the second the lights were out, she was there. And she was there. She was always in the corner, and she would stare so deeply at me that I would panic. And it was a animal instinct panic that I could not talk myself out of. I couldn't think my way out of. And I remember having the covers up on me so heavily that I would sweat. I would sweat through clothes constantly, because anything to kind of break that staring barrier would bring relief and safety for me. And I remember having a bed skirt around my bed, and I would have like a trundle bed underneath. And the trundle bed would pull out, and I would go underneath my bed to sleep at times because the bed skirt would cover her from being able to see me.
Oh, wow.
And so, this is something that for me carried all the way into my adult years. And being an adult and saying I'm afraid of the dark, is not something that's necessarily acceptable. And having very clear understanding and reasoning why, and not necessarily having the societal understanding from others of what's happening. I remember having the same nightmares on repeat constantly from 4 years old all the way up until my early adulthood years. It was this constant recurrent nightmare. So if she wasn't present with me, I would dream of her. And it was this constant dream of being in my backyard in California. And we had like a wooden fence, and there was like a knot in one of the wooden planks that you could see through the fence. And she would watch me through that knot in the wood. And when I would make eye contact with her and panic, she would run. She would watch me, and then she would run. And I just remember this experience of, I can't get away from her. She will overpower me. I'm not okay. It was awful. It was absolutely awful. And so it wasn't until I worked with you that I had any understanding of what it was like to be able to be alone in a room and to not feel that animalistic experience of being a prey.
Right. Oh my
to
God.
something that couldn't be really described and conceptualized with typical everyday language. So
Amazing.
that's my experience.
Wow. Wow. This is amazing. Now, I didn't know all of these details. I remove entity attachments for a living. And there is only one time where I couldn't find an attachment mechanism. And that's one of the, and it was this case. So when I go through the session and see an attaching soul, there's usually a contract, a vow, maybe past life, present life, whatever, that acts as the mechanism for that entity to hang around you. It's like they always have a bead on you. They always have, when you get this, you can follow a car with a tracking system. It's like you're connected that way through the power of this thread of vow, binding, contract, pacts. There's a lot of we don't make those contracts prior to incarnating anymore much, but generations ago, if you were born a farmer, you died a farmer. If you were born a woman, you had to have kids, even if you're afraid of dying. And we don't have to make those contracts any longer. We have evolved away from them. However, this was the first time that I did a report and saw an entity with no attachment mechanism. It's not like anything in Kaylee's past life, present life. I couldn't find what is attaching there. So that really doesn't matter. I can still clear the entity, which I did. But what was interesting is that when I did the clearing, when I declared at the end, as I always do, that this is finished and complete, my table that held my computer jumped 6 inches to the right, scattering and making my computer move. And I thought, oh, earthquake. But it wasn't an earthquake. It only was the table. It wasn't under my feet. It wasn't my chair. It was the table. And then it dawned on me, oh my gosh, this is the first time. It's happened before, but not to this degree, that the entity I released from this situation actually was pissed and was now around me. So what this entity was, excuse me, let me get Lisa back in.
Sorry.
Without the attachment mechanism, was called a shell. A shell is a soul who has passes that definitely does not want to leave the planet, even though her body has decided to leave the planet. She wants to stay. And it's not just hanging out like a earthbound spirit, which are pretty common, or a ghost, which aren't as common. No, she wanted a level of power and domination. And it's a soul that actually moves over like a cloth over another soul. And it usually happens in a place where people die and people, a hospital. It could happen to a baby. Now, mind you, shells are very, very rare, but they just consume a person and then enjoy the dominance they have over them. And it's fascinating. So when I discovered this hag was in my house, then I released her in a very specific way. It's not so much spell work or anything like that, but it took a little while, and she will never return. Any of my entity releases that I do, they are never to return. So it gives a fresh start. But again, of all the readings, this was the first one I couldn't find why this entity attachment is causing someone there's got to be an agreement there. Did Kaylee do something in a past life that someone's upset with her about or something? No, it was amazing. And then afterwards, I didn't report back to you, Lisa or Kaylee, that I don't think I did, that the jumping of the moving of my table and the entity within my house, your entity in my house. But after I found out the relief you got, it all made sense. Because I believe, this is my experience and assumption, I didn't really check with you, that it might have been instantaneous.
Yes.
Was it?
Yes, absolutely. I remember how I slept that night and waking up and saying, oh my God, I slept without the lights on.
Oh, wow.
And I slept well. And it was such a first time experience for me. I almost had to ask myself a few times, did that really happen? Or did I take Benadryl before bed? Because I slept so well and so peacefully, which was such a really kind of like an experience to be reborn into, to have a relationship with my body and with sleep and with safety that I had never experienced up until really my mid-20s.
Right. You know, I got to tell you, that's the uniqueness of a shell. And the unique part of a shell is that it clouds your outlook on life. It clouds your decision making. It influences your decision making. If they don't feel they have enough control of you, they will frighten you into submission, because when we go to the level of fear, our energy level is at a point that they can really attach to. And so once she was gone, it's my belief that you were able to see the world with Kaylee's eyes, and not influenced with the other soul around you. It's quite interesting. And I'm sorry you had to go through this as a person. I do want to thank you for allowing me to serve you, and then giving me feedback and allowing me to learn more, and especially for coming on today and talking about it. It's such a blessing. I really appreciate this. And you're not seeing this because you're on the phone with me, but your mom keeps popping in and out. Her Wi-Fi connection might be a little week. She keeps popping in and out. So, and she's gone right now, but I'm sure she's going to try to come back in. Is there anything, I want to be respectful of your time. Is there anything else you'd like to add to this story?
Yeah, I think I just want to take a moment to express just real deep gratitude towards you and the work that you have done for me. It has been nothing short of life-changing. I experienced the relief of what you offered me on a daily basis. To be 20 years old and to not have to take a shower with the bathroom door cracked open because I need to make sure that other people can see me and I'm not in an isolated place, and to now be on the verge of becoming a mother, being pregnant and becoming a mother, and knowing that I don't have to worry about my child having a similar experience. And there's a very real resolution that has happened that has just given me such a gift of re-experiencing life and safety that I was pretty certain just wasn't really in the cards for me. It was immediate. It has been consistent. I don't think of this entity. I don't experience this entity. There's no question in my mind that this isn't here anymore. Awesome. It's been amazing, and I'm excited to say that I actually very much welcome sleeping by myself with the lights off, taking baths with a candle on and the room quiet and dark. It's become a new relationship to light and to safety and to my body, and I'm so profoundly grateful for your work and your gifts. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate you for saying that and sharing your story with us today, Kaylee. I really appreciate it. And congratulations, Mama.
Thank you.
When are you due?
Yeah, January 21st. Okay. We're excited.
Okay.
We're super excited.
So as soon as that everybody comes through and you have a few minutes, please let me know, because I need the birth date, and then to figure out the numbers, because I do numerology, and beautiful. I'd love to give you a heads up on that. Beautiful, sweetheart.
Well, I trust Debra, you profoundly, and I'm so grateful to have a relationship with you and to have crossed paths with you in this lifetime. So thank you again.
Thank you so much, Kaylee. I appreciate this so much. Lisa.
Yeah, I was going to say one thing too that I totally forgot to add to this whole story. So Kaylee growing up had mystery illnesses, mystery accidents. If it was a 1 in 100 chance that nobody heard of it, she had it.
Mm.
She would get in weird predicaments, and it was like, how did that happen? All that left as well.
Oh,
The
wow.
illnesses, the accidents, the being at the wrong place at the wrong time,
Mm.
where we just scratch our head and it's like, well, of course it happened to Kaylee, but all that stopped after
Oh, wow.
you did the soul retrieval or soul
Awesome.
realignment. Sorry.
Soul
Yeah.
realignment. It's all right. Yeah, either way. Something with the
Yeah.
soul. Awesome. Awesome. I'm so, so happy that things worked out. And I really appreciate you giving me a testimonial like this. It's a hard service to explain to someone. And I have on my website, I'm going to put this banner on. Hold on. On my website, there's a free download, a free ebook that goes into what I do with soul awareness and realignment, to give you a better idea of what it is. But I think testimonials are one of the best ways to do it, because it really does explain what happens after. I can explain what happens before and during, but your experience, what you were born to be and do, is revealed, and that's a private thing. But I'm just making way for that revelation, your revelation. And a lot of times for clients, it's so personal that they don't have an impulse to share it. It's just a personal thing. And that's the way I like it. You don't have to, be open about it, but I sure appreciate this story. This is a remarkable, especially because it was one of the only times I've had a shell as an attaching entity. And it was very interesting. Very interesting. I really appreciate. I want to make sure I don't take advantage of your time, Kaylee. I know you're out and about somewhere. So if you don't have anything else to add, I'll let you go so you can enjoy the rest of the day.
Great. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to tell this story, and thank you again.
All right. Thanks, Kaylee. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.
So that was remarkable. I wanted to explain, not take her time up, but to explain that to the audience, that the reason, excuse me, you were able to see this entity is because you were FaceTiming your daughter. So that, and a lot of times when people see auras at times, it's just the light is right, and the way the light goes into your eye versus, then you can start, a lot of people can see auras and things like that. But she was FaceTiming you. She was in the driver's seat, parked, FaceTiming you with like this, and you were looking at her and you saw the entity. You saw her behind. And I like the way you said it today, is that, Kaylee, I don't want to frighten you. I'm sure your heart was beating because she sounded ugly.
She would.
Take care of that. But I like that you you have a spiritual practice. None of this scared you away. And so would you like to tell people what you do and how you do it and how people can get a hold of you?
Sure. So what I like to do is go in and I look at the client's chakras that tell me a story about the person. And from there, I am telling the client patterns, past traumas, which are located with the chakras, and also different ailments. So we usually go through and talk about the person as a whole, and as long as they've been alive, where they are
So how can
at.
people get a hold of you? Do you want me to?
You
I
can
can put
email me.
I can put the email in the show notes. So just an
Yes,
email.
you can. Yes, you can email me at my initials LDKH gmail.com.
Awesome, awesome. So I will respect your time now. This has been such a great reunion. It's been years since we've seen each other. And so I told you it was a good ghost story, but I also told you it was a true ghost story. This really happened to Kaylee. That affected her mother, Lisa, and I as her practitioner. And it was quite a remarkable experience, and I enjoyed every minute of it. I will see you again. You have a wonderful day. I really appreciate you. God bless you.